when you praise someone toward what you want them to accomplish, it releases that dopamine. That goes away really fast.
Yeah.
But the next thing that happens is acetylcholine sets in the front part of a calm brain, and acetylcholine enhances learning, memory, and habit formation. So as you're trying to train your team, if you can create the environment that you want and you can give good, clear goals and praise them toward that, they repeat it. And kind of once I figured that part out in my life, then the next thing I knew is my team just took off like a rocket ship.
Welcome back to Whiskey is for Closers. I just cut off Steve Caton as he was about to share something, but this is the show where founders pull up a stool, pour something real, and get honest about what it takes to build a business that outlasts you. I'm Craig Johnson. As I mentioned, with me is Steve Caton, Alteza's founder, the man who somehow turns a hard lesson into a usable framework before the glass is even empty. Drew Epperson, who usually asks questions the rest of us are too polite to ask, is on vacation with the fam. But today's guest is a pharmacist. Yes, pharmacist. He bought his grandfather's pharmacy in Iuka, Mississippi, and by his own account, proceeded to destroy it. What came next is the part that we are all here for. He hired a coach, rebuilt it into one of the best independent pharmacies in the country, sold it in 2020, and then went and formulated his own supplement, which the first 8 people he pitched to said absolutely, definitively, no. He is now the author of a book called Super Culture, a keynote speaker, the man who coined a sales term that you haven't heard yet, but you probably should have. And he's also, as of probably an hour from this recording, traveling to Omaha. Chris Cornelison, welcome to Whiskey is for Closers.
Well, I'm excited to be here. I had so much fun in the promo that I'm ready to go.
Yes, I love it. Okay, so when I first saw that you were heading to Omaha, I thought, why would anyone want to go to Omaha? No offense to my brother who lives there, but it's not the steaks. It's not the amber waves of grain. It's not because you love Peyton Manning. Tell our audience, why are you going to Omaha?
I am going to Omaha because I am a huge Ole Miss fan, and they made the College World Series, and I was like, hey, you can't miss it when they're in the College World Series, right? All those fans got to go. And so I will partake in the steaks and the amber waves of grain, but I'm going for the College World Series.
That's awesome, man.
It's amazing.
Here's a hotty toddy shout out to you from a bulldog.
There you go. There you go. Thank you. Go Dogs.
That's so good.
Thanks, man.
That's so good. Well, hey, most important question. What are we drinking today? Steve, you want to lead us off?
Yeah, man, I'll go first. In keeping with the theme, of Ole Miss and Georgia both going to Omaha for the College World Series, I have a bottle of Winning Colors here. This is from Creature Comforts in Athens, Georgia. This is from Athens, Georgia. It is a Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey that they collaborate with. I think it's Bardstown, the Bardstown folks who they collaborate with. And I'm looking forward to, I bought this bottle when I was in Athens with you last week, Craig, and I'm just cracking it open today. So looking forward to
Steve and I got to see each other face to face, which almost, barely ever happens. And I had to go with the same theme, Steve, Creature Comforts. And I made a mistake. I did not get enough of this because a 6-pack is not enough, but this is their summer shandy and it is so good. I couldn't resist. It's very refreshing, perfect for summer. And you can't get it around here. So I'm stuck. Like, I got to wait till we go back to Georgia.
I'll have to go get you some, Craig. I'll bring it to the cabin when we do our offsite in a couple weeks. Yeah.
Well, Chris, how about you?
Yeah, so I have tried that summer shandy and it is amazing, but I went with HYDR. If you're a true Ole Miss fan, our cheers hotty toddy, and they say, are you ready? And it's hell yeah, damn right. So HYDR whiskey, and it's the Grove Collective. So this supports our NIL. So I'm all Ole Miss and all hotty toddy today.
That's awesome.
So
I love it.
cheers.
Love the theme. Cheers, man.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Yep. Well, Chris, hell yeah, damn right is going to be the title of this episode.
There you go.
Oh
There
yeah.
you go.
Gotta be. Gotta be.
I mean, that's a for sure. Really respect the choice. You are going to be traveling here after this to head to the College World Series. We have an episode to record. Give us the 2-minute version before we really dive in. Who are you? What do you do? How does a pharmacist end up writing a book on culture?
Yeah. So first, you got to break a lot of stuff to go from a pharmacist to a book on culture.
Yes, indeed.
Graduated pharmacy school at 27 from University of Mississippi. Went back with the intention of buying my grandfather's pharmacy, the man I admired most in the world, family legacy and all that. And at 27 years old, I get it. I buy the thing at 27 with no leadership skills, no idea really what I'm doing. I was like most entrepreneurs. I was good at being a pharmacist, but had no idea the skill set it took to run a company or create sales or create culture. And so I did what all crappy leadership people do when they buy a company. I ran it in the ground. I used athletic leadership, which I used to think was athletic leadership. It's actually command and control leadership. But I yelled at people, do it now, hurry up. Slam the countertop every once in a while. And if you read my book, and I take this garbage can on the stage a lot, and sometimes I'd get so pissed off I would kick the garbage can in. And I literally wondered why people weren't responding to that. And so about 3 years in and just borderline in bankruptcy, I was like really trying to get a grip on the situation and looking at everything for the first time, really. And I got to looking in the mirror and said, it's probably this guy that's messing this up. And I got to thinking about, I wanted to be a great leader, but I really had no idea how to be. And I didn't even know at that point how poor leader I was at that point in my career. So I do love athletics and sports. So I thought, I've heard about these business coaches and things. So I found an organization that helped pharmacies develop their business. It was called Pharmacy Development Services. But the reason I joined was because they had coaching, and hired a business coach named Paul Simpson, and he told me just how stupid I was, and
As a
all the
good
things.
coach.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
he changed my life. He taught me how to write visions. He taught me how it's really hard to sell things when you don't know what you want to sell or who you want to sell it to, and you don't have any systems. And so he helped me create vision. He helped me create systems. He helped me create goals. And then I realized what a jerk I was, and what was really the turning point. Yeah, I got deep into leadership. I mean, I was reading every book. I was going to every keynote, and I finally realized that the number one thing a leader does is just serve others. And at that point in my life, I wasn't serving anybody. And when I started getting that right and started getting into it, and then it started getting fun. And then I started realizing, if you're a pharmacist, you got some science background, right? So I started realizing about the amygdala of the brain. And when you fire that, that's bad because people shut down. So when you yell, scream, kick things, bad. But also, in what my book's a lot about, when you're creating a good culture, I think my mantra is you praise what you want repeated. And what I also learned is when you praise somebody, dopamine gets released. But that's not where the magic happens. I've actually got a TED Talk coming out July the 18th. Well, I'm recording it July the 18th. It's on the power of praise. And something magical happens. When you praise someone toward what you want them to accomplish, it releases that dopamine. That goes away really fast.
Yeah.
But the next thing that happens is acetylcholine sets in the front part of a calm brain, and acetylcholine enhances learning, memory, and habit formation. So as you're trying to train your team, if you can create the environment that you want, and you can give good, clear goals and praise them toward that, they repeat it. And kind of once I figured that part out in my life, then the next thing I knew is my team just took off like a rocket ship. We went from 1 location to 3. We did start Solutions RX from the ground, which is still going strong. And lo and behold, I started getting asked to keynote. And the next thing I knew, I was getting the keynote stage a little bit. And then I got to where I really liked talking about leadership, and I wasn't really talking about pharmacy or drugs or anything anymore. It was all about leadership and emotional intelligence and praise. And I did it more and more and more. And is it okay if I give a failure story in my intro?
Well, hey, let's get there
Okay,
because
okay, okay,
we
okay.
want to
Yeah,
we
Yeah, we
want to
want
give
to
like an
unpack that.
overview, but then we'd
yeah,
love to dive like deeper into some of the details.
yeah, for
So if you
sure, for
don't
sure.
mind, let's
Yeah,
save it, but
yeah, for sure.
remember it because we want to talk about it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Anyway, getting toward the end, when I started getting the keynote gigs, I had my own leadership conference with Solutions RX one year, and I had a guy named Steve Gilliland come in, and he said, "Hey, where's your keynote career, man? What are you speaking?" Because he remembered I'd opened up for him like 10 years before, so I was flattered, and I said, "Man, I'm not keynoting really. I just kind of do it when it pops up." And he said, "Why not?" And I was like, "I just never gotten a bureau or anything." And he had a bureau called Picture Perfect Speaker. And he said, I'm going to come down the day before and listen to you. And he did. And he said, "Dude, you got to get this culture message out there." And he put me in his bureau. And the next thing I knew, I was a keynote speaker. And then I wrote the book. And it's just been magical because that's the way I impact people now.
That's cool.
That's so cool. Yeah, I love it. And man, there was so much there. So, Craig, thanks for saying, hey, we're going to go deeper because I was like, I want to go there. I
Yeah.
want to go there. I want to go
Yeah.
there. So you teased out one of the places I'd like to go deeper, and that is the pharmacy that you bought from your grandfather. And so I'd love to hear a little bit more about tell us about that pharmacy. Because when I think about pharmacies like that one, and I'm familiar with them, they don't exist anymore. So tell us about that. And then tell us how you nearly lost it. Maybe that was the failure story you wanted to share, but I'd love to hear you hinted at it, but I'd love it if you double click on that.
Yeah, the failure story is about my book later, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
But the pharmacy, yeah. So my grandfather was an amazing man. He taught me how to have a good work ethic, and he taught me how to take really good care of patients. But when you only have one location, when you're that mom and pop store, a lot of times you don't write anything down. So there weren't any processes. Wasn't any real consistency. And in the time he opened the business, if you sold a prescription, you made a pretty good margin, and that was a good way to make a living. When I took it over, insurance was in the play now, and margins are really low. So you had to do other things, and there were no processes there. There was no management structure. There was no goals. And he was just kind of leading it, as not a self-serving, I mean that. He was a great leader, but he was doing it all himself. He was a doer,
Yeah.
and he didn't write any of that down. And I stepped in with no processes. And he deserved this, but he was older when I stepped out. That's one reason I bought it so young, because they were getting older, and they were going to Florida in the summer. So the first 3 years of my career, I took this store. I wasn't really the manager. I just had the keys. And the owner, my granddad, when he was there, things went pretty smooth, but he was in Florida for 6 months of the year. So I was getting on job, like I was just getting scars every day because I had no idea what I was doing. And so I didn't have good processes to go with, and we didn't have any goals. We just kind of showed up and worked every day. And then you add that with a young gun who thinks he knows everything and actually knows nothing. And the way I got to the recipe for disaster is literally I bought it, and then the fluctuation. I mean, I think I had $5,000 in the account, and I had a $55,000 bill due on Friday, and it was Wednesday, and I knew good and well that 50 grand wasn't fixed to rain down. And the reality set in. I have no idea what I'm doing.
Well, Chris, I'm curious. What's stepping back a little bit further? Talk to us about your grandfather. What was he like?
He was amazing.
What did you respect about him?
He was like a father figure to me. I don't mean to be cliche. He was, in the weirdest way. I didn't start my mantra of praise what you want repeated till after he passed. And I hate that, because I think he would have really enjoyed it, because I actually learned it from him, even though he didn't say the words. When I sucked as an athlete, he was always telling me I was good. He was still working with me. He was still, if I couldn't catch it, he'd teach me to catch it first and then throw it. And then he would tell me I was the next Nolan Ryan or whatever it may be. And so he was constantly praising what he wanted to see repeated in me. And he taught me how to work hard. He taught me how to, he was a good right from wrong guy. He was just a man's man, back in the 80s, the greater generation. And, he just had such a knack for always caring, always showing up, always being patient, and genuinely cared for people more than anybody I've ever been around. I know everybody says they would give you the shirt off their back. I saw him do it over and over and over. So just a great man.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And I'm sure that there was a lot of pain for you having the respect that you have for him and then seeing the business kind of going through what it was going through. One of the other things you said earlier on as you were running through the stories, you realized, like, you looked in the mirror and said, it's me, I'm the problem, which I think is really, it's awesome because I think a lot of leaders they don't have the self-awareness to do that. So I'm curious, did you come to that conclusion yourself? Did you have somebody else kind of in your circle as a mentor who was helping you to see that? Because I know, were you in your 20s at the time, Chris, when
Yeah,
this was
yeah,
happening?
late 20s.
Yeah, so I know me in my 20s, I don't know that I was mature enough to look at myself in the mirror and go, dude, you're the problem. So yeah, how did that happen for you?
You know, I tell the story in my book about this night. I just lost it. When everybody went home, I knew the money was coming tight. And I didn't share this with my grandparents. I don't think anybody in the world knew kind of the situation we were in except me. And I was embarrassed. And the real reason I looked inward is because I didn't have anybody else to talk to about it at that time because I was too ashamed. I didn't want to tell my granddad that he had built this great place and I was destroying it. I didn't want to go home. My wife knew, but I didn't want to talk to her about it. I was ashamed there too. And I kicked the garbage can in. I made a mess out of the store that night. I was sitting there literally on my knees, sobbing. And then finally I was like, this hit me. I'm not going to sit here and feel sorry for myself. What can I do? What action can I take? And for the weirdest time, I sat there almost in silence. I can remember it almost like it was yesterday. And this thought came to me and it said, what if I'm the problem? And from that point, I got to thinking about how I really did. When I bought the company, I wanted to be a great leader. I wanted to be that good guy. I wanted to be respected by my patients. And I cared about my patients and my team, but I just didn't know how to lead them. And so I went on a leadership journey. I started reading first. And then I looked for the opportunity to hire a business coach and, learning about emotional intelligence. I agree with something you said, Steve. Most people have no awareness.
Yeah.
They react to an emotion. It trips their amygdala in their brain, and they just react the same way over and over and over, which is what I was doing. It's funny now thinking back on it, but the thing that really ticked me off was when we got too busy. Now I'm in business, I'm going broke, and when we get busy, I was getting mad because we get behind, but we got behind because we had no processes. And
Yeah.
as I realized that I was the problem and my leadership needed work, I worked on my leadership, and then my coach started working. He said, "Oh, you got more problems than that. You have no processes, nothing written down. You have no focus." Like he said, well, if you want to grow the business, what do you want to grow? And I don't know. What's your number one market? Who's your ideal customer? Who's all this? And I'm like, I don't know. And so my coach, Paul, he had a heyday with me for the first few years. He kicked my butt, but turned me into the guy that did write the book Super Culture down the road because he taught me how to process things so well.
Cool, man.
Thanks for that. That's, super transparent. And I appreciate you sharing that, Chris. But with the whole time you're talking, I actually am seeing myself in my 20s leading a team of real estate agents. I was in a business, wasn't my grandfather's business, but it was a business me and a buddy started. And I was the one given the responsibility to build and lead this team of realtors. And same thing, I didn't know what the heck I was doing. And I was just trying to use motivational tactics I read in a book to get them to do what they needed to do. Bro, it was brutal. It was not good.
Yeah.
It was not good. So I feel that. So I'm curious, Chris, now, you obviously a coach came in and played a huge role in helping to get things turned around. Now you are a business coach yourself, you're playing that role at some level. What does it feel like to be on the other side of that chair?
It's so fun because inevitably you just see mistakes people make that you've made yourself. And,
Yeah.
and you see them spilled out. I used to run this thing called the board of directors, and people would come and they'd bring all their problems, and everybody'd have a little 2-hour segment where we'd treat them like they were the CEO and they were presenting to our board. And I got to facilitate it. And you just watch people make mistakes that you've made before, and there's a little bit of a laughter on the inside, not laughing at them, but with them. It's like, and then you get to assure them that you can get through this. And the reason I know is because I screwed it up like this. And this, this is the steps you have to take. But the coolest part is when you focus on your culture, you focus on your people, and you do have good systems, then you can fix any problem.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good, man. And, I think what I love about the fact that, the story you told is that you have scar tissue, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I could work with a coach that didn't have scar tissue, right?
100%.
Because how in the heck they're not going to be able to teach me anything. I don't think. I mean, but I know that you could because you've been through the war, you've been through the battle, you almost lost a business and you recovered. So, man, I want to learn from guys who've done that. So
Yeah.
it's really cool to see how you're using that now.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I call it my PhD in screwing things up. And believe me, I got one of those.
That's awesome. Well, one more thing from your stories you were going through at the beginning, you talked about selling in 2020. Then you started the new thing, Solutions RX, which is a supplement company, right?
Mhm. Yes.
So yeah, walk us through that pivot and how that happened.
Okay. So Solutions RX, our real concept is we start with what prescription medications a patient's taking. So we do supplements with a pharmacist mindset.
Yeah.
For example, a lot of diabetes medications will pull out vitamin B, and that causes diarrhea, low energy. A lot of cholesterol medications will pull out CoQ10, it causes aches. So we try to match the supplement based on their prescription medication first and foremost. So as I was realizing this is a huge opportunity in the market, I formulated a vitamin that kind of hit all that, and we were able to put it all into one, save the patient a little money. And I created a proprietary enzyme blend that would make it absorb better. So I really did build a really nice widget. I had some people on my team that helped me. We were so proud of it. And I still owned the pharmacies. So I had every diabetic, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol patient was a great, that's the ideal clot. And they were walking in every day and I knew who they were because I had their prescriptions. So I thought this is going to be a home run, right? And I will tell the failure story because I get a couple thousand bottles of this product in. I'm pumped up and, just walking around, this my product and can't wait to tell people about it. And I went and told the first person about it and I hammered it because I didn't pay any attention to them. I'm just telling them about my product. It does this, and blah, 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 which they didn't hear any of. And then I was like, okay, that didn't go so good, but I gotta keep going here. So I did the second and the third. And I literally had asked 8 people who are ideal clients about my product with no process, right? And then I was like, holy crap. I've got 2,000 bottles of this stuff back here. I can't sell it. I can't sell it myself. And I'm going to try to get other pharmacists to sell it also. And I was like, man. And then a moment of clarity hit me because I had some sales processes and some success at that point. And I was like, I'm walking out there and talking about my widget. And even though it was my widget and I had created it and I was proud of it, and it was a great widget, it still is a great widget. It's a massively selling product for us right now.
Yeah.
I wasn't focused on the patient. I wasn't focused on the client. And immediately I went down to the next person and I just asked them a simple question. Do you take a multivitamin? And they either said yes or no either time. And I was like, the reason I suggest you do is you take these medicines and they do this to your body. And it's because they take these vitamins out, this puts it back. And from that point on, I started calling it up solutioning. And I think the true pitch to all sales is you start with their problem. If you can identify their problem, that's gold. And we could identify it. So after that, then started teaching pharmacists all over the country. We're actually in 750 independent pharmacies and a few other healthcare providers. And we just taught them how to talk to their patients in a similar way. Yeah,
That's awesome.
And one thing I'm really proud of, even though I sold the pharmacies, they all stayed independent and they're all still open and still kicking butt and thriving. So they're still doing
really
good.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Well, Chris, the last piece that you had mentioned kind of in the intro, and we're going to dive back into some of the sales side of things and then into some other insights, things that you've learned along the way. But, you wrote the book, Super Culture. What made you put super on it, right? So what's the difference between regular culture and super culture?
I hope I could say it like this. I kind of got pissed off. I was listening to all these gurus talk about culture. And I thought a lot of them they weren't really talking about culture. They were all talking about core values, which can go hand in hand sometimes, but that's not all your culture is. And so I Googled back in the day when Googling was the thing before AI. So, what is the definition for normal culture? And it started talking about the habits and behaviors of people. And that's all it was really based on. And I was like, that's not what my culture is based on. I had a culture document and it was really short, sweet, to the point. Line 1 said, be happy and have fun at work. Because when I wrote that document, I was miserable at work. And that's the first thing I wanted. And I knew everybody else wanted that. So I put it down first. And so I realized that if you don't base your culture on anything, you just let it happen to you, then you will have what I call normal culture. And that will be based on
Yeah.
nothing but people's personalities and opinions.
Yeah.
But when you write
Yeah.
it down and you start making it part of your hiring process and you start making it part of every goal you set, when you start making it a part of every team meeting, you say, when somebody asks why, you quote your culture document, which mine is very short, but when you quote it, why are we going to this level of detail? Because line 5 says we get the little things exactly right. Why do I have to do this? Because your position agreement says it, and line 3 in our culture says be accountable to. I call it the be accountable to statements, your position agreement, our vision, our goals, and our company standards. And so, when you have that structure, now what the definition of a super culture is to me is the environment of greatness we're trying to achieve. And now we all know what that looks like. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how I got started in the book.
That's good.
Yeah, I love that. I think, you touched on two things. Like one is the culture document is really short. So we're not talking about a book, right?
Yeah.
We're talking
Yeah.
about a one pager that makes it super clear.
Well, they can get
And
that with super culture.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. My original one's in there. It was only 4 lines long.
Yeah.
It
No,
was
that's
super
great.
short. Yeah.
I love it.
It was, go ahead.
No, I would just go ahead what you were saying. I'll finish my thought.
Just be happy and have fun at work. You choose your attitude because we're going to set the standard. And if you can't be happy, we're going to coach you up or coach you out. Everybody
Yeah.
doesn't fit. We get that. And you can go be happy somewhere else. And that's great too. But you choose your attitude, be accountable to, and do that first document said, something to line 4 something to do with doing your best. Do the best you can. And it was that simple, but it changed the way the whole company flowed. And now mine has 15 lines, but they're short. It's a half page.
That's awesome. Well, and the other thing that you're doing that I think is really important for people to not miss is that you're incorporating them into the daily life of the business, as opposed to it's a sign on the wall that people look at when they walk in the office. No, you're weaving it into the conversations and you're repeating it over and over again. I remember I was blessed to work at a company years ago that had a really, really healthy culture. And one of the things that a coach that was working with our CEO said is, you've got to repeat these core values every day, all day, until you're sick and tired of it. And then you keep doing it, because about the time you get sick and tired of hearing it is when everybody else is starting to catch on, right?
When I train my managers, I train them 2 ways. I want them to quote the 1-year vision, because we write a 1-year vision every year that we share with the team, or the culture document every time they praise and hold accountability. Now, and what I mean by that, don't just say thank you for doing XYZ. Say thank you for doing XYZ because that got us closer to this goal. Thank you for doing XYZ because that upholds this. And you give the why, and you do it subconsciously. And so as I'm challenging my management level to train the team, I'm challenging them to do it with verbiage. So I'm constantly trying to praise them. And when I hear them doing it, I'm like, hey, you quoted the vision on that. You quoted the culture on that. And it keeps sinking in till it gets subconscious. That's what we want. We want everybody to have good subconscious habits, right?
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So let's pivot into some more sales stuff, Chris, because you got
Sure.
some gold to share there. And you talked about all the no's that you got, the 8 no's in a row. And so do you remember the first yes? Can you remember that? And what do you remember what you said and then how they reacted and how that was different than what you'd been doing in the 8 no's?
Yeah. So I realized in the 8 no's, I was doing all the talking, which meant I wasn't listening to them at all. And I wasn't focused on them at all. I was just focused on my widget because I had built my widget. And I just went out and I said, I'm going to start this with a question. And so I sat there and thought, I'm just going to keep it simple. It's like, do you take a multivitamin? And if they said yes, I was going to say, great, which one? And try to get them to talking about that. And if they said no, I was going to tell them the reason I asked the question. But both times, and the one I got, what I noticed when the sale was over, I just asked a few questions and then they told me all the problems they were having. And then I gave them the solution. So the minute I started focusing on the client and what their pain points were, what their desires were, what they needed to do better, that's when I started making sales. And the main thing on that night sale, when I walked away, I thought, wow, I didn't hardly talk at all. And in the 8 failures, I did all the talking.
Wow.
We got 2 ears and 1 mouth, right, Chris?
Yes. I had a baseball coach, Coach John Smiley from Corinth one time. I'll never forget it because we were riding back and he had a little Yankee accent. We're in the South. So, it stood out. And I was talking too much. And he said, Cornelison, if you would close your mouth and open your ears, you'd be a heck of a lot better ball player. And it stuck with me the rest of my life.
So good.
That's a sign of a good coach right there, man.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, you've used the phrase solution a few times, and I've also heard you use a term up solutioning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what is that? What is up solutioning, and how are you using that?
Yeah, so it's been my sales process forever. I say one of two ways. You can either identify somebody's problem or you can't. I got another thing called blasting. If you can't, we do that. But if you can identify the problem, that's step one. And I was pitching this sales tactic from the stage at a pharmacy conference. And step one's identify the problem. Okay, so in my case, I knew with the prescription somebody had diabetes or had high blood pressure, and they may be suffering these side effect problems. So step one, identify the problem. Step two, identify the best solution. So you got to have enough knowledge of your industry or whoever so that you can help them out. So what do I think would help them and what's the best choice? Not always the cheapest, the best. And then you work your way down. If money becomes a problem, then you work your way down to whatever the cheapest is. So identify the problem, identify the best solution. Then you educate the patient. You let them know this is out there and why you think it's the solution for them. And then you simply see if they want to try it. And it's always, the reason it's up solutioning, not up sales, it's always said, if they don't take it, we don't care. I train my team like we want to give them good options that we think make them healthier, but it's their health care. So if they don't take it, we're not going to be pushing. We've educated them, and that's all it's about. Well, I gave this talk at a pharmacy thing, and I had a great friend named Patty Mara, and she was writing a book, and she said, man, I love the term up solutioning so much. She said, can I use it for the title of my book? And I was like, absolutely. So she wrote a book called Up Solutions. It's not that sales process. Now she wrote a book, her up solution process, but she writes about my pharmacy and about the turnaround we had because she was a part of the organization that I had my coaching through. She wasn't ever my coach, but we're just great friends. And she wrote about my company and how the team turned around and how as we put these processes in place and got our culture right, it went through the roof. And so, I just coined it up solutioning, and the rest is history.
I love it. And we may even borrow the term as well, Chris, because we had a podcast episode we did a while back called Shut Up and Sell. I think you'd like it.
Yeah.
You can check it out. But it basically, it's talking about all the principles that you've been highlighting here, which is, shut up, right? Stop talking, start listening. And then we also weave in what I've seen in my sales career is that the best salespeople are the people whose real goal is serving others. That's really what they're trying to do, is serve. They're not trying to sell something just for the sake of selling and making money. Now, there are salespeople that do that, but the best salespeople are the ones who are like, how can I serve this person? And up solutioning is perfect for that, right?
Yeah,
that's what you're finding the next solution that's going to serve that person based on where they are and what they're trying to achieve or what problem they're trying to solve. So I think it's awesome, man. I love it.
100%. And one thing I used to tell people, like when you get in the habit, if something else comes along, you get excited about in your business, then it's really easy to say, okay, can I identify the problem this solves or the desire? I always say your goal in your companies is the friction or the pain point of your hero client or ideal target or their desire. Sometimes you can sell that if they desire this and you can give them what they desire, then that works too. But you reverse engineer that way. When I would go to a show or somebody want to bring something to my company, or my coach always said it's either on vision or off vision. So for me, do I have this client, is the ideal target for this widget? Do I have them? And if I do, can I up solution it? Can I identify them? And if I can, I know I can stick it in that process and it's going to turn.
That's gold, man. I love it. Well, so one more sales question for you, and then we can pivot to another topic. But there's a lot.
I talk sales all day. I love it.
Obviously, so can we. And I've led sales teams, as I've mentioned before, and we currently lead a bunch of salespeople that are working for the businesses that we serve. We have founders we work with that are leading salespeople, and I want to come back to the ratio of praise. The praise piece that you talked about, which is so important. What would you say? In the sales context, you got to balance praise with accountability, right? Sales is all about accountability to the metrics and KPIs and, the results and the outcomes. What is the ratio, the right ratio of praise to accountability, and why do you need both to happen?
Yeah, for me, it's 10-to-1 minimum. That's how I train my managers. I've been doing it for
Okay.
years. I've even got a thing I call the praise coin. I don't know if y'all can see on the screen.
Yeah,
But it's
man.
got my mantra on the outside. It says, praise what you want repeated. And then it says 10 times a day. I tell my leaders,
cool.
if you're not praising 10 times a day, you're not leading my team. Now, when I bring praise into the conversation, the first thing I always get asked, what counts? What counts? And I'm like, well, everything counts. There's no bad praise. Even fake praise has been scientifically proven. If you can make the corners of the mouth go up, dopamine gets released, and that's still good. So if you want to say, hey, Chris, that's the best shirt ever, that's great. That's praise. But my mantra is praise what you want repeated.
Yeah.
So if we want to make more sales, why don't you praise them when they try? And I always tell people, I was like, one of the biggest mistakes we make is somebody goes in, we take a new pitch, it's our first time, we don't get it right or whatever, and they fail, and then the leader sits there and doesn't say, hey, way to go, good job. And some people will stop you and say, well, why would you praise them when they're not making the sale? And I was like, because we don't make sales, we solve problems. So we're up solutioning in the first place. So if we got the right information in the right person's hands, you want them to repeat that, right? You want them to ask enough people so that we can make sales, right? So you praise the effort. You praise the courage it takes to go try the first time. You praise following the process. You praise getting better as you go. You praise things that you want repeated.
That's so good.
And without accountability, the reason it can't be praise, no accountability, because on day 2, you have to have the accountability of trying again. So you're looking for that to happen. And the reason you want the ratio to be right is...
I was going to ask that, Chris. Thank you for going there.
Yeah. So there's a thing in the brain called the amygdala. Y'all probably talked about it before. It's the fight or flight switch in the brain, okay, or the fear center. And when you yell at people, slam things, kicking garbage cans like an idiot, you fire that and they don't hear anything. Once your amygdala fires, once you feel unsafe in the working environment or unappreciated, then it shuts down and they don't hear you. Okay, so I'm trying to hold accountability, but I haven't praised them. They're not comfortable in the environment, and only time they hear my voice or walk into my office, I'm getting on their tail for something. Now they're shutting down every time they hear me. I speak to athletic coaches a lot. I'm speaking at an athletic coaching convention in a couple weeks, and I tell them all the time, everybody wants to be Nick Saban, right? Everybody wants to have Nick Saban type advice. It's like, but if all you do is chew your athlete's butt out, you can be giving Nick Saban advice, and they're not going to hear it. But when you praise people, they get relaxed, okay? And everybody gets caught up. Dopamine doesn't last long. They call it a dopamine shot because it's about like taking a quick shot of whiskey. It doesn't, it doesn't last long. 3 to 5 seconds tops. But that's not where the magic is. The magic's when the brain's calm. Acetylcholine will kind of hang out in this front part of the brain most of the time. Now, if I start coaching you and your memory, acetylcholine enhances memory and learning. It's what my TED Talk's actually about. And so if I want people to pay attention to me and they're used to me saying, good job. Hey, that was a great pitch to that person. Hey, we made a sale because of what you did yesterday. Hey, I really appreciate you being on time every day. Hey, they're used to me. It's good. And then when I use the same tone and say, hey, that you didn't get the little things exactly right just then. We just missed an opportunity because there was our ideal client and you didn't up-solution them to the best widget we had. Now, my tone stayed the same and they're comfortable, so they will soak that in. To where if the only time they hear me is when I say, dadgummit, Steve, you messed up again, man. Come on, do this right.
Yeah.
Then when that ratio's wrong, they don't hear it. So they don't learn as fast. They don't grow themselves and they don't help you grow your company.
That's so good.
So Chris, it's so good. And I love, that this is coming from a pharmacist's point of view, right? You understand dosing, too much of a good thing could be harmful. Apparently that's not the case with praise. But for maybe the leader that's listening and they're going, okay, Chris, I'm in, I need to be better at praising just people as well as my team. How do I still hold people accountable? What are there some practical things that they can kind of put in place there where they can do both? Because I know you kind of mentioned it, but put the cookies on the bottom shelf. Help us figure out how do we actually do this effectively.
Yes. So that's the reason the ratio is so important. I think you have to hold accountability every day. I think the leaders going in and coaching and you're always wanting to improve something, right? Or fix something that's broken. And the only way to do that is bring awareness to them. So they have to be aware that something didn't go right. We need to move the cookies to the bottom shelf or to the top or whatever it may be. And so that level of accountability, the leader that has to hold accountability, I find that when they're comfortable praising, they're much more comfortable having accountability conversations because it's not the only time they're talking to that person either. And so when I used to train my managers, I used to make them keep 10 coins in their pocket. Now I just go with the 1 coin. It reminds them 10 times a day. But I would come up to them a lot of times, and praise is not taught to most people. So it's not natural when they start. And I had a lot of leaders that really struggled with it. And I just don't know what to do. So I'd walk up and I'd say, okay, how are you doing on praise day? You think you've gotten 10 in? And they'd be like, I don't know if I've gotten any in. And it'd be around lunchtime. And I'd say, okay, let's analyze the situation. Is anybody out there doing anything that's helping you right now? And we were in the pharmacy world, so I'd say, is that young lady getting the drive-through window keeping you from doing it? And did that young lady just answer that phone? Did that make it so you could talk to that patient? I said, did you have a good patient interaction with that person? Oh, yeah, it was great. I said, do you think you could have done that to the level if she didn't get the window and she didn't get the phone? And they'd be like, no. And I was like, just tell them. Tell them you appreciate them getting the phone so that you could have that interaction. And I was like, and then share, because a lot of times the pharmacist in the situation would be the hero to the patient. I was like, share with them the difference you just made in that patient's life so they feel like they're a part of it. I was like, that makes us all feel like a team, not divided out. And they would do it a couple of times, and then I would say, this is how I would hold them accountable. I'd say, if you're not willing to notice when they're doing well, how do you expect them to respect or care of you when they mess it up and you have to hold them accountable? Yeah. And so those moments would sink in, I think. And that's just that was my training process. That's how I tried to see it in action and how I tried to get people to go toward that mindset.
Yeah, man. Can you go first person with us for just a little bit, Chris? Because I can think about one of the very first times that when I learned this principle, and it wasn't nearly as much discipline around it as you're sharing, which I love, but a specific praise story that you experienced, a real one, a moment where you saw something happen that you didn't see coming because of this concept of praise, right? Do you have one of those stories that you can share that was like really left a mark for you?
I got one that happened pretty recently today. So if you don't mind me going to something that just happened in the last 24 hours.
Yeah.
We're using a lot of AI in our company, and I've got a office administrative girl, and sometimes she can be on an island because, sales is doing their thing and R&D is doing their thing and the AI department's doing it. And we've been talking a lot about communication. Okay. And she caught an error that we had a little AI process, we're trying to, hop systems to truly use agentic AI. But she caught an error she's in the AI where we had somebody sign up for a free training and it was a new client, but it didn't pop up in the calendars like it was supposed to. It didn't hit the sales guy's calendar. It didn't hit any of the stuff. And when she caught it, the person that was her manager, I just happened to be in the conversation, and when she caught it, I was like, hey, I was hoping my manager would catch it. She didn't. But I was like, that's great. If you don't share that with us, we're all going to fail. And I told my manager, I was like, the reason you want to praise that and the why in that moment, you want them to repeat that. You want them to feel like when they get a chance to get the ball, you want to praise them getting the ball. Because your managers know, it's like, you're a quarterback. You get it every play. Right? Yeah. So you will make sure that you praise that. And that was just one, that was just one that was meaningful. A big wow praise. I've had so many in my career that it's just natural to me now. And it's natural to see my leaders doing it now. Gosh, I don't know if I'm trying to think one that would wow you guys better. I'm sure something will pop up in just a minute after.
No, I mean,
that's good.
Craig and I, we talk all the time, our leadership team, we talk about how sales is a team sport. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about that concept, that story you just told is a perfect illustration, right? You had somebody that isn't a frontline salesperson who made a decision in the moment that impacts a sale, right?
And shared it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then shared it. And so that's a perfect example of that. We are all, at the end of the day, all of us are in sales at some level, right? Mm-hmm. We all have a responsibility to create an amazing customer experience, and that's a great example of how to do it. So the fact that you praised it, awesome.
And then the conversation I was having with my manager's young and great. And she was, what I was telling her, I was like, you realize we're praising the share. It's not the catch. We praise the catch. We praise that. Yeah. But it's the share was the magic in that. And that's why I kept telling her, I was like, you
100%.
telling us what you found is amazing.
Yes.
You finding it's doing a good job and all that. But it goes times 10 when she shared it with the rest of the team because we didn't make the mistake anymore. We went in and fixed that out. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's so good. Now, Chris, College Baseball World Series, you're about to travel to Omaha.
Yeah.
What's your prediction?
Wow. I think for Ole Miss, Game 1 is pivotal. I think North Carolina and Ole Miss have the best 2 chances to come out of our side. So whoever wins Game 1, I think, is definitely the front runner. I would love to see Ole Miss Georgia. Ole Miss anybody for that would be great. Yeah. I actually went when Ole Miss won it a few years ago. I was at we went to Game 2. And me and my team went, and we didn't think we were going to win or anything, right? So we just said, hey, we're staying until they get beat, and we did it. We stayed the whole time, saw Game 2 all the way to the championship. So I'm excited to go back, and it's always great when Ole Miss is in.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we end every episode with a toast, but before we do, and Steve, you're on the spot today for the toast.
Yeah, great.
But before
Thanks, Drew.
we do, come on, Drew.
Come on, Drew.
Priorities.
Drew's normally our Toastmaster.
Family. Yeah. Family's more important, Drew, than toasting with the guys you work with and are friends with. Come on. So before we go there, Chris, where can people find you? How could they work with you? Where could they get Superculture, the book?
Yeah, so you can go to our website, which is www.chriscornelison.com. You can buy my book there. You can buy it on Amazon. You can send me an email there. Tell me how you want to work together. I do keynotes. I do offsites. I had business training classes. Probably fixing to ramp those back up really soon. I had some eye surgeries last year. It slowed me down, so I kind of stopped that for a second. But yeah, all that at www.chriscornelison.com. You can find my supplement company at solutionsrx.com. And all the social media handles. Chris Cornelison's out there everywhere. Hit me up on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all that. So
that's great, man. You know, Chris, you've shared so much wisdom with us today, and I'm grateful for that. But I have to say, I'm probably most grateful for the fact that you used really big words that help the country understand that guys from the South can say something other than Abdullah Oblongata, you know. So thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Good.
So let's do a toast, man. So on that same note, we'll start with a toast to the men and women who appreciate Hotty Toddy and Go Dogs.
Yes.
All right, we'll start there. And then to the leaders who are self-aware enough to recognize that they are the problem, and to the leaders who figured out what people need to hear and what people need to do starts with the same word, and that word is yes. Cheers.
Cheers.
Chris, that was great.
That was awesome. Hell yeah. Damn right. That's the energy that we're bringing.
Yeah. Chris
Cornelison came in with a pharmacist's understanding of dosing, a grandfather's pharmacy worth of hard-fought lessons, and a praise-first philosophy. And that is the opposite of the way most founders are running right now. If you want the book, it's Superculture. Go get it. If you want the man, he's at Chris Cornelison, CORNELISON.com. He might be in Omaha for a few days, but he will resurface. And if scaling beyond yourself in sales is the thing that you're stuck on, that's Alteza. We put experienced fractional sales professionals inside founder-led businesses so the close keeps happening whether or not you're the one on the call. Guys, that's the episode. Get the ratio right, 10-1, pour something good, hotty toddy. Cheers.
Cheers.
Hotty toddy.
Let's go.